It's magic. I mean, I'm really not exaggerating. I'm talking to you, the master, but it's really magic. The moment you embrace light in exterior and you decide, I mean, I'm going to say this, and tomorrow I'll have a hard son. I have to shoot a scene in, and I'll curse myself. But no, but it's true. Ireland is one of the most beautiful places to shoot for the light. You just have, it changes, or it's true that it changes all the time. But I don't know, for some reason, it's beautiful. I loved it. I loved my only experience in shooting in Ireland, into a situation where the sun runs onto the hills and you see the sun coming back. It's like laughing at you, But you have to, you just have to play with it. Just shoot, roll before,
It's probably part of it. It's so changeable that you know that continuity doesn't matter because it's just changed.
Yeah.
But are you a stickler on continuity?
Am I what?
A stickler. Are you very conscious of continuity in light?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Such a good question, Roger. It's a question for all cameramen. Yes, I am, I guess. I am for storytelling, I am. But I would bother a director sometime too much, and more I'm realizing that it's important just to shoot, and go with the flow and shoot, and they will edit and we'll fix it. Something we can fix now in post that we couldn't fix before. But with continuity for lighting, I was never enough, a stickler, you say?
Stickler, stickler.
I learned the word.
I've always been, early on, I thought, really, that's all about continuity. And so, you start with a wide shot where you can't light the artist too small in the frame, exactly what you want, how you want. And then you move in and think, well, now how much can I change? How much can I light that person the way I want to light them? Now I'm closer. And I would always think about that until I watched for about the 5th time Martin Scorsese's film Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. And there's a scene in a car with a boy and Ellen Bernstein going through, I don't know where it is, New Mexico or something.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And on one angle, it's 2 crossing overs in the front seat. On one angle, the sun's out, it's blasting in, the exterior is really bleached out. On the other angle, the sun's already gone down. It's like a twilight shot. Yeah. And it literally took me it was only the 4th or 5th time watching that film. I suddenly realized, my God, it's a very long scene.
Yeah.
And you think, if the scene works and the director needs that shot, there's some situations where you've got to do it because generally the audience isn't going to notice it.
Yeah, it really makes me want to see the film and the scene again. I've seen it, but too long ago. I really want to see it now that you tell me this. I love where that's what's wonderful with cinema. It makes you want. Someone talks about a film, and you write down and you watch the film, and it's such a wonderful thing. No, I remember I followed your podcast. I'm totally addicted to your Tim Dickens podcast now, and it's only recently I started to look at it and say, wow, what did I miss? And the Andrei Xenitsev, and then I don't know which podcast you were talking about George Stevens, and I really want to see the movie now of the.
Is there a way you prefer? I mean, you've worked with a lot of directors that are, work things out in advance, and then other directors that you just you do it on the day very spontaneously. Do you prefer one from the other? I mean, Uncut Gems, for instance, must have been very spontaneous on the day, right? It must have been
Uncut Gems was again a very different experience where you have these 2 young directors that are incredibly inspired. The degree of inspiration is amazing, but they actually prepared a lot. They prepare everything a lot, but on the moment of the day, they have this energy on the set during the shoot that creates again another explosion of creation. But they actually prepare everything, and we think everything is going to be designed and shot a certain way. But the inspiration and the degree of spontaneity they have also during the day creates another incredible strengths that
Yeah.
I never encountered that experience that I had with them. It was very powerful experience working with them. It was fast, but it was exciting all the time. And the characters, the casting and the characters is just so exciting, and you have always this feeling, of you. They create this feeling of at the same time you're very sad and you feel a lot with the character, and suddenly you laugh. It was like a burst of sun, in the scene.
Yeah.
So it's just very exciting. Yeah.
You said I read somewhere you said that the hardest thing for you on a movie is finding the key to sort of unlock the visuals.
Yes.
Before you start. Can you talk about that a bit more? I mean, how is your approach when you first read a script and talk with a director?
One of the most important question for me, and I always think about it. I always always very scared by the idea of not finding the key. I always found that a film is a house, is a key, where you have a key, that you have to find the key to enter the house. And I sometimes feel I enter the cinematography, the look of a film, through a character. Sometimes it's an actor, a character, of the way a character is going to be, an actor is going to play a character, or it's the director, the way what the director says before we start. I love hearing the director. That's the key. Often I found the key by just listening to the director. For me, it's a lot about listening to the director. The script is important, but I read the script, and I would read the script again, and sometimes I'm more or less fascinated by the script. I'm not always. I've worked on films, and I've worked with directors where the script was not the greatest thing, but once they talked to me about the story, what they wanted to do, it became so much more, And the script for me is a partition. It's like a music partition, And but the key, the way to interpret the music is really through the obsession of the director. I don't know how to say it. It sounds a bit awkward but do you understand what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
And I think we actually feel the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think you can go anywhere really without getting to understand the director's thoughts on a project. And
it's a very good question, but it's always like it's fascinating how you enter a film. How you enter a film, because you have a lot of things. You have a lot of dragons and demons and things around. Things that fear, and things that, and this fog. You don't really know. And sometimes it's very clear. Sometimes you have a script, or you have a story, or the director say things that are very articulate. And I love when I understand. Usually, there's not necessarily the most visual director, but they they say things like they're very articulate about what they want. Sometimes they say a line or two lines about a character, or about scene, about the story, and then it illuminates everything. It makes, okay, this is the look. This is how I should approach it, and you start building. You start building the house, the edifice, the building, and which is going to be the structure of the film. I don't know. It's all different ways, I guess.
So have you ever read a script that you really liked and then met with the director and felt like the director, well, sometimes they're going in a different direction that you don't think the script would go, but also with a director that doesn't seem to have any idea what he wants to do? It's this way, that way. Would that make you run away? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense, but I don't remember encountering such an experience where the director, like you read a script, you like the script, you meet the director, and then he tells you things that are so different than what you imagine. No, I never really, because if I think the few movies I haven't done that many movies, but the few movies I've done, I've been lucky to work with very obsessed, interesting directors, fascinating directors. And they were for different reasons, and I really fell in love with them, and we became very close in a way. That I love being close to a director. I think there's one, maybe it's a weakness, I don't know. I cannot photograph a film if I don't become the director, if I don't. And when you were saying I'm a chameleon, I like this expression. It's like I'm like I try to replicate the director. I'd like to become the director. It's almost scary. I like to think like him. We eat together with me like him. I don't like the word brother because it doesn't really mean anything for me. The word brother, but I like to really enter the director's mind to be able to play the music right. You know what I mean? It's and so I never had really like it would be a bad experience like this, But I've been a bit, I've been very safe in my choice. I've always been careful of most of the movies I was doing. I've been like, not doing a movie when I felt it was not,
Yeah.
I've been almost,
Can I ask you? I think one of the most beautiful films you've shot, which probably is not really noticed as such because it's such a sort of quiet piece and it's all shot in one apartment, and that's Amour with Michael Haneke.
Yeah.
I think that is so beautifully restrained in the way it's shot. Can you talk about that?
Yes,
how you approach that?
Again, that's exactly the example of what we were talking about. Amour is really falling in love. I did a movie with Michael before in America. I had an experience with him where we did a remake of a movie that he did before called Funny Games. And we did it with wonderful actors in the States. He already had done a great film in Germany, but we replicate exactly this movie in America, and I really, really loved. I learned a lot on this film about lighting. I had the feeling, I never met, I never worked with Robert Bresson, but I had the feeling that I was with someone that was a child, like a descendant of this spirit of filmmaking. It's a bit simplistic to say it like this because it's not Robert Bresson, but it comes from that family of cinema, of filmmaking. Right. And that was my first real chance to work with someone like that, and I really, really enjoyed it. It was painful, but it's not. Probably working with Robert Bresson was also painful. It's painful because it's very authoritarian and very. He works on special with very preconceived idea about things. But if you love his cinema and you love his films and his characters and the way he makes films, if you give yourself, it's a question of giving yourself a lot, And when we did, so I love this experience. And when he asked me 2 movies later, he did a beautiful film in between called The White Ribbon with his usual cinematographer.
Yeah.
And then he asked me again for this experience for Amour to work together in Paris. And the approach of it was. It was like an artist, like an artist working on like a conceptual artist, He literally, instead of shooting on location, he decided to build the entire set, to the image, very close to a copy of a set of his mother's apartment, or I forgot if his aunt or mother's apartment, but it was it was copied to an apartment that existed in Vienna, but transposed to a Haussmannian apartment in Paris. So we worked with a great production designer called Jean-Vincent Puzos, was a very very important key person on this film, where he gave him the possibility, gave him all the parameter, how he wanted the apartment built, the size and everything, and they started working together, and then we started, the 3 of us, working on how the windows, where the windows will be, and the film, the story takes place at the 6 months, during 6 months at the end of the life of this couple. 6 months.
Right.
And during the 6 months, it's a certain moment of the year. So where the sun is going to be, where with the sun we decide how the apartment was placed geographically in
Wow.
Paris. And then I lit it completely realistically from the idea that Michael had. He wanted to be
Right.
very realistic, like if we're shooting on a real location. So he designed the apartment with a size, so we didn't have to move walls, or we put the floor like we could track on the floor, you know.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
We used maybe Steadicam maybe for one shot, don't remember which one, but we did everything on tracks, and everything was tracked on the floor, you know.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
And everything was pre-designed, everything like this. So we
So sorry. So were the shots designed from the script, and then the set designed with those shots in mind?
yes, everything was
Yes,
designed
right.
like this. So it was
Right.
like a musical partition. Everything was designed like this for you know.
Right.
And the light, we knew the light would come directly only in the kitchen at certain hour of the day, would have a certain
Right.
inclination of the sun.
Mm.
Everything was thought of like this,
Right.
you know.
But that light wouldn't come in unless you put it there. So how did you do it? How
We
did
just-
you
it
light
was
it?
on
I mean,
sta-
I've often wondered looking at that film, thinking, well, how the hell did Darius light
Oh,
this?
thank you. He was a wonderful electrician, I guess, and great,
That's too simple. You're not getting off like
and
that.
great production designer. We
Yeah.
had a wonderful team, a great crew. You know, I remember Thierry Beaucheron, Cyril Cunance. It was just like great, and Jörg, we had a great camera operator, Jörg Wittmer.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
It was a great team, and Julien was all very good French camera team. And no, it was on stage, so we built. Sometimes it was awkward even on stage at Épinay-sur-Seine at the stage of Éclair. Do you know the
Yeah.
stage near the laboratory?
I
There-
don't.
there's
Yeah,
a big
I
stage.
know where it is.
It's a
Yeah.
very famous stage in the French
Yeah.
cinema called Épinay-sur-Seine in a small town in a suburb called Épinay-sur-Seine, and the stage you call Éclair. It belonged to Éclair, to the laboratory,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and we built on stage. So sometimes it is awkward to put the lights there, and yeah, no, I'm amazed too that people tell me it looks real. He's the nicest.
Yeah. It's beautiful because you have changing light.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah.
not just sort of twilight
Yeah.
and night.
Mhm.
You actually have the sun changing, and you also see outside. So what was
Yes, you see
outside? Was all
outside.
that painted backings or what?
No, it was all green screen.
Oh, was
But
wow.
everything
Oh, wow.
was
Yeah.
shot. All the plates were shot very, very meticulously, according to the times of day. They were shot at the
Right.
right time of day, corresponding to the time of the scene of the sequence.
Right.
Mhm.
It's so interesting hearing that because I wouldn't have thought that. And yet, when we were talking to Michael Kretschmann about the film they did,
It was
Loveless,
an amazing interview.
and
Yeah.
which is a lot of stuff on stage, and also a film called Elena. I thought some of those backgrounds would have been green screen and put in later, but
Yeah.
they weren't.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's interesting
Yeah.
that, you know.
I love
how-
I love
how
this interview of
Yeah.
this director Yanitsiev and his cinematographer. They're absolutely
yeah.
fascinating interviews.
Yeah. Well, I think Amour is it's brilliant for that because you really feel the change of the light. Although it's such a simple film in just this one apartment, that you really feel the kind of world outside through the light. Yeah.
It's a very strong again, Roger. It's again this, you know how it is, a strong impulse of the director.
Yeah.
The director pushes you, push the team into one direction and obsessively, you know, like passionately. So you work like this, or you don't do the film, you know, and then it
Right.
becomes a love work, you know, work of love, you know.
Right. I want to jump around
Yes.
if I can then My Blueberry Nights, which we did earlier with
Yes.
Wong Kar-wai,
Yes.
which is, again, is such a radically different looking film.
Yes.
Can you talk about that, finding the look
Sure.
of that, and how was that color palette
The
used? How did you create it?
The color palette was Wong Kar-wai color palette. He loves loves color and loves saturation and no, we scouted with someone who became my friend, the creative producer, Stefan Kushmanian. We scouted the first time across America, across the States. I had never done this trip before. It was an amazing trip. And we scouted for location with this very nice location manager. And we crossed America, but just the three of us without the director. And we were looking for the places, but all fed by the information of what Kar-wai wanted, how he wanted what sort of location he wanted, and where he wanted to, the feeling of it. And we were sending him images all the time of the places, the location. So we were jumping from one city to another, but just driving. First we thought we would fly sometime, and then we ended up driving everywhere to different cities across the States. And it taught me a lot about America. And then we did it again. We did another trip with him this time, with the Wong Kar-wai. And we narrowed down few locations. One location in Nevada, in Ely, Nevada, in the middle of the Nevada, and one location in Memphis, one location in New York, a small location in LA, in Las Vegas, a location Las Vegas, and we did the movies in these locations with the. At first, we thought we were going to maybe to shoot it in 16 mil, and but I was not crazy about shooting 16 mil, so we thought about maybe anamorphic shooting, because I love anamorphic, and then I didn't feel it was the right choice for Wong Kar-wai. He loved the camera to be much more fluid, much more moving, and having be able to use zooms, and I felt I didn't know him, and he's a very interesting director, but he's not a director that I personally was able to know so much about. You could go by feeling, but I couldn't tell who he was really. He was very enigmatic and still mysterious. When you work with him, there was still a degree of mystery, which is interesting, which is good. So I started this film. We shot in 35, and I pushed the negative. I had this idea of pushing all the negative to saturate the color, to saturate to have a more saturation in the color, but to have a natural saturation of color, and to have a natural contrast, to have in a non-reversible way of treating the film. It was already like a raw thing, in saturation and color. It was a strange idea, but I had this idea that I wanted to do it like this. And then, after it was a matter of, and he loved the color, he loved saturation, and then he went on to saturate even more in the DI himself, because I was doing another movie in Australia while he was doing the DI, so I couldn't do the DI myself. So he did the DI with his production designer and William, who does all these movies, and they saturated the film to great extent. My idea was to have a natural saturation in the design of the film, in the photography, that I would after subtract a little bit of the color. I would do a little bit like ENR does, to subtract slightly the color. My idea was to do something more like this in the DI, but the director he decided to go more like a colorful, first degree colorful film, which is nice.
Unusual?
Yeah.
Is that unusual for you that you were not in the DI?
It's unusual. It happened a few times for me, but it's not something that I love. I love doing the DI. I love being present. I love very much doing it. But I work with directors that have very strong ideas about the DI. Like when I work with the Safdies, they have very strong ideas about the emotion of the color of the film, and obviously with David Fincher or Bernardo. There's some directors that I also work a lot with colorists before called Ivan Lucas, who was like
Yeah, we know.
Ivan,
him and I
yeah.
were so close that we did a lot of movies in the past together. And he was like me, in the DI, So it ended up being, what I wanted. It was I never had like really bad surprise. I was a bit surprised with My Blueberry Nights. It was more colorful than I would have expected, what I wanted to be, maybe. But then I looked at it and I think it was what he felt with his mind. The important thing for me is really that the movie looks like his director, had the feeling of the director. That's what counts in me. I don't want to make it sound so nice, the nice guy or humble or whatever. It's not that. It's just that I feel I'm a film lover. I'm like you, like both of you. I'm a film lover. So at least the director is the essence, So you just want the film to look like a director. The best quality is that the film has the flavor, the essence of the director, I mean, if you work with good directors, then they're great looking films. Why wouldn't it be,
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
I don't think it's so extraordinary,
No.
It's simple.
When you choose projects, do you tend to, if you read a project and go, wow, I've never done this before, like this look could be completely different. Oh, I want to do this.
Yeah.
Do you do it for a different experience?
That's a very good question.
Because you do seem to do such very different things.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if you read it and go,
James, it's a very good question. I wouldn't do a film just because it's different, but I love the difference. I love the difference. Going from Seven to Stealing Beauty, I love the difference. Going from Funny Games with Michael Haneke, one of the movies I did really the more back to back, like we say, was Funny Games and My Blueberry Nights. Imagine.
Yeah.
that is
It's
funny.
like two radically different directors.
Yeah.
So the emotion, the muscle of everything, your muscle has to be different, or you don't do it, or you quit. And the crew, I had a wonderful crew from New York. It was your key grip, wonderful Mitch Lillian,
Oh, Mitch.
And
Great guy.
And he was actually the key grip on these two films.
Oh, great.
And no, he was. Hang on, he was a key grip on. He was on key grip on The Interpreter, and then he was a key grip on Funny Games.
That's right. Yes.
No, sorry. So he was not the key grip on My Blueberry Nights. He couldn't do it, or maybe he was doing a film with you. I don't know. He was not available.
Maybe.
But anyway, no, he didn't do My Blueberry Nights. No, it's another amazing grip that he did from LA, who actually did the dolly gripping himself. It was incredible. Michael Koo. And
Michael Koo.
Amazing grip. And anyway.
Yeah.
But imagine coming from one film to the other. It's like, I think it's the most radical change I've ever experienced, I think.
But like you say, it works that muscle, which is good.
Yes. But the question is a very good question because it's so exciting to do. I mean, for you, Roger, I'm really interested in what you think about this, about the change of such different experiences,
No, I like you. I love it. Absolutely.
I mean, you have so many admirable films by the films you photographed as films, and also the way you interpret them, you photograph them, like Shawshank Redemption, like Fargo, but or like Barton Fink and Shawshank Redemption, and it's amazing. You were talking about it in earlier, I think, in a podcast, but it's so incredible, this change of emotional feeling of making different films.
Yeah, well, that's the joy of it, isn't it? But as you
Incredible
say,
joy,
I
right?
mean, you're trying to reflect the script, but the director, you're trying to get in the director's head, and then just taking it from there. And that's the joy of the job. Do you ever regret not directing, or you ever intend to still direct?
No, I never regretted. I never regretted not directing. I always thought I would do a vampire movie. I would do a Dracula movies or vampire, or sort of vampire. I didn't mind to do earlier on. I didn't mind to do a small, very very small 16 millimeter film shot somewhere in Poland or Russia or Romania or Hungary, to do a little film with unknown actors, a very low budget, and direct a film like this, But I would probably want to shoot it myself, and or with a young student of cinematography. But this is a dream I've always had, but it's not something that I would probably ever do. But I never.
Do you ever operate?
I did operate. Yes, I did operate all my earlier films. And then I stopped operating on 7. David really wanted. I mean, it was nothing was like mandatory, but he wanted me to be at his side all the time, on the monitor and controlling everything. And I really started enjoying it a lot from that moment, working with him and looking at the whole picture, and instead of being stuck behind a camera and it's a different emotion. It's completely different emotion, and I could completely understand the emotion of most, cinematographer operators. But I love watching and controlling the whole thing with the director and being at his side all the time, and sometimes behind the camera, sometimes behind the monitor, and I love it. And I came back to operating on the beach, on the movie The Beach.
Oh yeah.
And then I did my Blueberry Nights, Funny Games. I did few movies after that I operated. For some reason I operated these movies, I always think I'm going to operate again. I always think I'm going to take the camera. I always warn I'm very lucky. Most of the time I work with amazing camera operators. That's also another thing, that they do everything better than I would do it, So if I have a camera operator like this, it become like flying. It's amazing to have a camera operator that you watch it. Oh, okay. But what I love is designing the shots with the director. So I'm actually a little bit control freak with the director together about designing the shot, whether it's the director or me or one compensate the other according to scenes after scene. One scene, it depends of the film, it depends of the directors. But I'm a bit control freak with it more, with the framing, with the camera. But the actual operating for me is different than Roger. It's admirable what Roger and other very few good, cinematographers operator do. But I don't know. I enjoy it a different way.
Yeah. Good.
It's interesting because we often ask people, which would you give up, lighting or operating?
And we know what you would say.
I would give up lighting, and you obviously don't have the problem.
I don't give up. I don't give up operating. It's just, for me, the operating is, I put the camera from A to B. This is how it's a little bit restrictive for the camera operators. But when they are great, I found their flavor in the operating. I see the way they operate from one to the other, and it's beautiful, and it has their touch. The great ones have their touch, so it's not so restrictive. And but what I miss from not operating, I remember missing, is being on the first row. First row, and watching the actor on the first row.
Right.
That I miss.
Yeah. But lately, you've done a couple of TV series.
Yes.
What's the difference for you working on features and TV?
I've had 2 great experiences. I touch wood. There's wood everywhere in my house, so it's easy to touch wood.
Good.
I touch wood, but I've had 2 amazing. Because for me, TV before, French guy, cinephile or not, TV was like this.
Yeah.
The big Saturn.
No go.
And and no TV. I would never do TV. And people keep on telling me, but TV, recently, like probably they told you, TV. And I never watch TV shows. I never watch TV series. Very rarely I would watch one episode of a TV series. Very strange. But one director seduced me into shooting a TV show. Nicolas Winding Refn. He literally seduced me, like a charming state. He said, and he told me, Darius, if you do this with me, this TV show with me, you're going to experiment on lighting, on color, on camera, on image. We're going to work together and play together and experiment like maybe you've never done or rarely done. And I followed him and I did it, and it's exactly what we did with him. We literally experienced on color, on framing, on things. It was just an open experimentation all the time with him, So I really, really, really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it very much. He was in Los Angeles. We shot a lot in the valley. I love this part of town, of the city. And I really enjoyed my first TV show. And then I did it recently with a wonderful, wonderful director called Pablo Larraín, from Chile. And again, he made me love it, And the first one was for Amazon, and this one was for Apple. And it was just amazing experience, very different and amazing. I just really loved it. And I'm not going to say, I'm sorry, Roger, I'm not going to say I'm going to do TV shows now because I really want to do. They're so great that I want. But I just want to be open now. I will be open to it. Hopefully I do a few movies before I do a TV show.
You think the changes in technology, both lighting and camera, have actually helped you be able to do that kind of work? The kind of speed that it requires and the kind of flexibility?
Yes, it did help me to do this kind of work, to be a different kind of intuition on the light, on the feeling of the light, especially in urban landscape at night or dusk, to be able to play with the intuitively with the light, with the real light mixed with our lights. And yes, the digital technology helped me a lot on these things. But I love film, and I love the feeling of exposing film still very much. For film, it really requires the directors and the location of where the movie is being shot. I wouldn't want to shoot a film now if we have to send the film footage and see. And have reports a few days later and things like this.
Yeah.
I don't really would enjoy so much the stress of it and the unknown and all this. And I don't think, but if we shoot, in Paris or London, Los Angeles, in Germany, in Rome, there's where there is a lab and we can work daily with a film lab. I love it. It's just a film lab shooting film. It's just organic and very simple, and I still love it. I still love the exposure, the feeling of exposure. It's like the light is like water going into the ground, into the earth. It's like the feeling of the exposing negative is maybe I'm old-fashioned. I don't know, but I still really love it. Love exposing film. It's the way you expose it can do is such a different, feeling when you're exposing it. You can burn completely negative. You can destroy it, or make it underexposed. Like what you did. I remember recently I was talking. I don't know if it was to whom I was talking about what you did on this war film you did in the desert.
Jarhead.
Jarhead. It's just an amazing experience of the brightness of the light, how it feels like it's all overexposed, like it's burned out, Was it film or digital?
That was film.
It feels like the negative is burned to death, And your interpretation of the desert is so admirable, I love for me, it's a reference of burnout exteriors for the desert. I mean, no, seriously. But then when you go in a scene interior, you have to open your eyes because it's fantastic. This feeling you gave us this ability of going from dark interiors to exteriors where you on a big screen you have to blink your eyes because you to adapt your eyes to the brightness of the exterior, and you did it photographically, and it's just admirable for me. It's a breathing. For me, film is breathing. Cinema is breathing when you have emotion like this. That's why I wanted to do filmmaking, to feel that. Sorry, I'm a bit passionate about it.
No, you are. That's very good.
That's good. That's why you're good at what you do. Got to have passion.
Just looking at questions we've had from people online, but
you got a lot of questions.
No, I think it's been great conversation. We've sort of touched on so much, without getting into too much technical detail, which I think is good, isn't it? Yeah, God, yes.
I realize other DPs also don't like talking technical. Mostly because I forget everything,
Yeah,
I forget it. I forget how things were done. They were done by other. They're done by such a big. The crew is a film crew. So I forget how we do things.
Yeah, and I also think it can be a mistake that the people are looking. Students are starting out are looking for a kind of formula. So sometimes it's a mistake to sort of get too detailed in.
Yeah, let them find their way.
Yeah, but that's why I never do these classes, technical master class or showing students. I never do this because I've done once, I remember in Italy recently, but I'm not comfortable doing it because everybody's different, everybody do different things. And the moment I do something, next day I don't want to do it necessarily this way,
Yeah, that's right. That's right, yeah.
Thank you for this.
Thank you, Darius.
Thank you.
So nice to talk
I'm very
to you.
flattered that you asked me to be part of the amazing Tim Dickens podcast. It's like I'm totally addicted. It's wonderful. Thank you so much for doing this. Podcast. It's one of the greatest things. It's not only cinematography or filmmaking. It's like
it's been great for us too. It's our one little connection to the outside world right now.
Amazing. Yeah, especially now. It's true.
I keep quoting it, but we got one lovely little email from a truck driver.
Yeah.
He said, "I've got nothing to do with making films. I love films.
Movies. Yeah.
I love movies, and your podcast is so great because it makes my long drive so short."
So wonderful.
Nice.
Yeah. I do it training. While training, I do it rowing with an incredible.
You've got a row.
I have a wooden rowing machine, and I do this, to keep in shape.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Or walking in the garden, in the Luxembourg garden. I walk and I listen to it.
Very good.
We should take pictures of all the people listening to Tim Dickens in different situations in the world.
That would be fun.
Really good,
we should do a mosaic of images of all this. You would see me running in the park, in the garden, rowing.
That would be fun.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening. If you want more information and further discussion, check out the forums at www.rogerdeakins.com. Becoming a member is free, and you can ask follow-up questions there. And be sure to subscribe to the podcast for more new questions and topics. Also, check us out on Instagram at team.deakins. See you next time.